Billy, obviously, A Perfect Circle is back together and touring again. Um, did it just sort of, is this sort of an organic thing that just kind of happens with bands like this? It just feels like, hey, it's time we should get back together and kind of go out there again? I mean, was it something you planned for? I mean, how did this kind of, coming back together thing come about?
In 2004, when we were on the last tour, we talked about what we were going to do from here, and I was going to do a solo project, and Maynard was going to do one. His became Push for a Mind, became Ashes Divide. Maynard started a vineyard, and obviously still has Tool, and it's there's a lot of things going on, especially for Maynard. So when the little window opened up, it seemed like the right time, and he said, what do you think about doing shows in this fall? I said, great, I'll clear my schedule.
So it was a foregone conclusion that at some point APC was getting back together then.
Yeah, we always knew we would. We're just looking for the right time to do it. We still had throwing ideas back and forth, and right now I've given him some song ideas and been writing to them, and now it seems like the time we're just going to put something down, and we might even be debuting some of those songs at the shows.
Oh, is that right?
Possibly. We're thinking about it.
Gotcha. So there pretty much will be a new APC record then coming out?
I don't know. I think the term record kind of frightens some of us. But not me as much. I'm kind of still a little bit of a dinosaur in that respect.
I gotcha.
I still like the idea of a record. Kind of how I grew up musically, and it still means a lot to me. But as far as how these songs will be released, they might be released in a different fashion. A little bit more of a EP or a limited release, and then come together as some kind of collection towards the end, almost like a photo album would be. You're putting them in this photo album to collect, and then maybe there's a different version of them later on. But we'll see. I think the exciting thing is we don't have a record deal. We don't have any commitments or responsibilities to anyone else, and we can kind of do what we'd like to do as far as that goes, and that feels really good. It's for both Perfect Circle and for Ashes Divide. And we're just got a lot of possibilities.
Absolutely, yeah. That's really interesting. Billy. The concept of the tour is pretty incredible. You guys are going to go out and perform one of the albums each night, and then I believe on one night there was 2 albums that might be performed. Where did this idea come from? Was it sort of bringing the fans back into the music? Was it just sort of you guys wanted to revisit it? Where did that come from?
A little bit of both. We've talked about doing this for a while, and so now as we've had shows coming, we're talking about doing shows, like, okay, let's do the thing we talked about, which is, do all 3 records. We never toured the Emotive record. This will be the first time we're doing any of those songs live, which for the most part are covers, but, to be honest, they're original. Most of them are pretty original
arrangements, absolutely.
Arrangements, yeah. So we're, excited to kind of tackle that challenge of how are we going to pull this record off live, and also, it's exciting to do the rest of the records verbatim. Not verbatim as far as the way the songs were done, but the order and how many songs there are. It's going to be cool to do the whole American Elms set, the whole 13-step set. We've done some early rehearsals with our new bass player, Matt Majunkins, and Josh Freeze and I. And the 3 of us have gotten together and just kind of ran through the first record and half of the second, half of 13-step. It's awesome to play. It's kind of like we're all kind of beaming across the room and, going, this is great, man, because we've all been excited to do it for so long. Josh calls me all the time, like, when are we going to get to play? When are we going to do this? So, yeah, it's been, we're all really excited to do it. I don't know if I don't know if the fans are going to be more excited than we are to be up there playing and stuff.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting point, Billy. It's almost as if you guys are obviously you've written this music, you've played on it, this is your music, but revisiting this, must open up, kind of memories of the day when this stuff was being recorded, and hearing, the solos you were playing and the tones and stuff, and kind of, dissecting the music and realizing, how kind of, rich it is texturally and that, and kind of,
Yeah, in classic fashion of me like driving everybody nuts around me, but I'm kind of ripping all these songs apart. And the biggest thing is, I mean, I could have just dusted off the old rig and brought it out and played again, but I'm redoing my entire guitar rig, and you know, James Yaw's rig and the bass rig and Matt's rig. So I've been working, you know, hundreds of hours on reprogramming everything I had in my big, you know, I had two 16-space racks, you know, an A and a B rack that I bring out with all this, you know, kind of older cryptic stuff, and now putting it all into this new one piece of gear. This fractal audio to Axe Effects is the piece. Axe Effects Ultra, I guess it is. So I'm kind of redoing every song, and there's going to be 40 songs, you know, at least 38 songs that we're playing on this tour. I think it's 40. It's a lot, you know, it's a lot to do to go back and revisit. I mean, I'm literally going back and listening to the stems of what I played, and, you know, back from 1999 on, and it's like, wow. And some of it's funny, once you record a record, you kind of have to let go of it, and then it becomes, it doesn't really, I don't feel like it belongs to me anymore.
Right, I understand.
So it's kind of cool, like that, when you let go of something and it just becomes written in stone of what it is, and then going back and listening to like the raw tracks of it, it's like, wow, okay, this is kind of cool. Like, you know, I was really proud of some of the stuff that that we had done on those records, and you know, and the guitar stuff. I was kind of like, wow, I did that. Okay, cool. So,
That is cool. So you are able to sort of recreate those more organic kind of, you know, classic pedal sounds with this new rig. I mean, they all exist in this new form.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's very little compromise that I have from making my rig this massive behemoth thing down to just, you know, one rack, you know, a 2-rack space piece of gear.
Wow.
Yeah, the other stuff was great and it sounded great, but it was just, I had, you know, backup after backup because the EEPROM and the circuit board would go out, and the electric, it was so sensitive to the electric or whatever was next to it. You know, if it was sitting next to a lighting tower, it was just too crazy. You know, with Ashes Divide, I brought these things out on the road and used them, and they were really great. So now tackling the APC stuff and revisiting all the atmospheres and all this stuff is pretty daunting, but it's fun. You know, it's pretty interesting.
Absolutely. So, I mean, Billy, as you're sort of diving into the material, I mean, is any one record any more difficult than the other to sort of recreate and kind of, you know, remember your parts and, you know, get that, you know, original kind of, you know, a groove back?
I'm kind of, you know, I've done a light of programming of like the first two. I haven't tackled Emotive too much yet, and that's going to be interesting. I mean, that record's more interesting in that I'll be playing not just guitar on that record on that night. You know, to be, you know, be playing. I'll leave it. You know, there'll be more keys and other kind of acoustic instruments I'll be playing on that night.
Oh, cool.
So as far as like dialing in sounds, it's, you know, Maynard has some really interesting guitar sounds that I'm trying to get back. And last night, you know, I worked for 6 straight hours and got 2.5 songs done. I can tell you, like, it's taken a while. It's like about 3-4 hours a song.
Yeah.
They really get it done. And you know, but like I said, I'm listening back to that stuff and going, wow, I'm trying to make it even better than any tour we've done. Like the sounds before I was always happy with, but this new processor has a lot of possibilities, so I'm just trying to take advantage of that and say, you know, I could really get close to what the record sounded like. So
interesting. I mean, Billy, obviously you have this, you know, deep passion for, you know, guitar and hello.
Yes.
I'm sorry, man. I thought it was a hang-up. I'm sorry. For guitar and tones and, you know, ambient sounds and washes and loops. I mean, do you think that came from sort of, I mean, your background? I mean, working as a guitar tech for these different bands, watching, you know, I guess that was, you know, Slash era Guns, and, you know, I'm not sure who was playing in Bowie's band at the time, but he's always had great players, and the Smashing Pumpkins thing. I mean, was it just sort of, you know, somehow assimilating all these things, or do you think your guitar thing kind of came before that? I mean, had you already kind of been this tone kind of a guy, you know, before going out with these bands?
It came, the desire came before that, but the level of quality of bands that I worked for, that bar got raised up pretty far, and that was what's interesting. I had a lot of different bands, a lot of great bands I worked for that I kind of, I guess, got thrown into. I was the guitar tech you'd call for complicated rigs.
Oh, I see.
I could always, today, well, I don't know. I mean, even, I guess, in today's standard it'd be easier because things are a little bit more compact. In the 90s, when you had a big rig, I mean, these were literally huge things with hundreds of connections, they interconnecting a lot of different things. I like that challenge. To me, it wasn't about just, hanging out, partying with the band. It was about, pushing the envelope of technology and trying to get what it takes to, make it sound as compelling as possible for the guitar, and make sure the guitar player didn't have to think about the guitar. They could just get up there and play, and then they could be surprised. I'm always looking for that guitar tech who took it as serious as I did, which is probably not going to happen because I was a complete geek and just didn't, you didn't need to tell me to do something. I would just, want to go out and make it as good as it could possibly be, and, as foolproof and as it could possibly be. And, I really had a lot of passion for my job, and I really liked being a guitar tech, and that, carried over into when I started to make my own record. I mean, it was there. I got to experience a lot of different things, see what was the best of the best out there, and if I can afford it, I went for it. I was lucky enough to work for Nine Inch Nails on that Downward Spiral tour, and I learned just a lot about the quality of music from that tour. The show is exciting, and what it really meant to be in a war zone and survive it on stage.
Interesting. Yeah. Amazing band, amazing record, of course. Obviously, you spent time with Tool, doing the and forgive my pronunciation, Anima.
I think they say Anima.
Anima, I'm sorry, man. Doing the Tool record and that tour, kind of watching Danny Jones. I mean, was that, did that rub off on you at all? I mean, watching the Tool thing and seeing how they did it, I mean, did that carry over into maybe a little bit of Ashes Divide or even to the APC thing? I mean, certainly with Maynard, of course, but I mean...
Of course. I mean, I was a big Tool fan. It's Adam Jones, too, if you're looking for the guy. Danny Carey's the drummer.
Oh, man, I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
I'm sorry. That's stupid.
That's all right. Someone will fact check it on you.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, Adam's a great player, and he's a simple, brilliant player, I would say, is the best way to describe what he does. It's very familiar when you hear a lot of his songs. They kind of have a familiar feel to them. So it has an immediacy that grabs you, but it's always, there's a lot of passion there, and I've always responded to players who play less and have more to say with those, simple notes. And I think a lot of people, can subscribe to that kind of a thing. It's almost like if you really want someone to listen to what you have to say, whisper it in their ear.
Right, exactly.
Scream it, you're going to turn them off. And I think it kind of goes to that sort of mentality of, you don't have to, break somebody's brain with how many notes you can play. It's really just the right note at the right time and the right rhythm and feel. And Tool certainly always had that. It's the perfect amount of aggression and subtlety that obviously has made them the monster that they are today.
Absolutely. I mean, Billy, I mean, do your influences, I mean, go back further than that? I mean, were you listening to, I mean, you use a lot of acoustic guitars in your music. I mean, was it was Jimmy Page, one of the guys for you, the way he would orchestrate guitars? I mean, did it go back that far? Or just wondering, where some of the earlier stuff came from.
Well, really, why I picked up the guitar is I was... The stuff I listened to heavily and what made me get in the guitar are kind of two different things, but they came together in songwriting. I mean, what made me want to pick up the guitar, honestly, was Randy Rhoads.
Is that right?
Ozzy Osbourne. Yeah, I mean, it was really that. I mean, I was into dark wave music back in, like, the 80s when I was, growing up, and I was more into Killing Joke and Dead Kennedys, Elvis Costello on the lighter side, and The Cure, and Echo and the Bunnymen, and things like that. And I like weird textures. Listen to Missing Persons, so Warren, I'll butcher a name pronunciation if you could fix it. Warren Cucurullo.
Yeah, I think that's pretty close. Yeah, Warren was great, definitely.
So that, those kind of those kind of things were interesting for me to listen to. But you know, it was when I really heard Randy Rhoads, and my friend Rob, one of my best friends, he played guitar, and when I just sit in his room and listen to him playing guitar, just plug straight in an amp. And he's like a shredder guy, and it was just so interesting that he could actually sit and keep my attention for that long. And I was like, you know, I should give this a try. And I literally went out and borrowed a crappy guitar from my uncle, and then went and bought my first guitar 2 weeks later. And you know, that was it. I sat and practiced, you know, for 8 hours a day every day. I got home from high school and just locked myself in the basement and played guitar until I could, you know, pull off all those first two Ozzy Osbourne records. And then from there realized, oh shit, I've learned too much. I got to forget all that stuff and get to the music that I think is really interesting.
Interesting.
You know, like the Cure and things like that. And so as far as songwriting goes, it kind of went back to, you know, things like Cocteau Twins and the sound that was 4AD, you know, become more like atmospheric and kind of this ethereal thing that wasn't necessarily super pop structure, but had more of like an emotional element and a bombastic, you know, energy element to it. So
that's interesting. That's really interesting. I mean, can you remember the first time you sort of, met Maynard? I mean, you know, when you were working for them. I mean, was it a amicable thing from the top? I mean,
I met all the Tool guys in the early '90s. I was teching for a band called Fishbone, and Tool was the opening band for them. So I would, you know, help those guys out, and I'd help Adam with his guitars, and Paul Diamore was bass player with some basses and stuff like that, and just became friends with them from there. And then I met Maynard at the same time, and you know, we were friends, you know, to hang out and days off or whatever sometimes, but not super close. I mean, I became closer with Maynard years later when I kind of bumped into him when I was looking for. I literally went to a bar in Hollywood, bumped into him. I had just broken up with my girlfriend that night, had all my stuff in the back of my car, and literally had nowhere to go. I was gonna, you know, go to a hotel, and he just said, "Oh yeah, I got a room you could take in our house," you know. So that was it. It was kind of like fate brought us together one night, you know, in the late '90s, and it just kind of progressed from there. I was always working on music, and he heard what I was working on, and somehow, you know, he seemed interested, and that's it. We